Halloween 2016, the year that forever changed how I viewed jack-o'-lanterns. It was the year of the killer clown pandemic, a real-life horror phenomenon that swept across the nation, instilling a sense of dread in all. Every headline was emblazoned with chilling reports of ominous clowns terrorizing communities. It all began in our small Midwestern town, a typically peaceful place whose tranquility was shattered by a sighting of this killer clown. Halloween was just around the corner, and excitement was mounting among us, the children. Little did we know that our innocent trick or treat would turn into a genuine and horrifying nightmare. In the days leading up to Halloween, rumors began circulating about strange, clown-like figures lurking on the outskirts of town. Hushed tales among my friends painted a picture of a tall clown with an unnaturally wide grin and haunting, ghoulish eyes stalking the shadows. But who could have suspected that these tales held more truth than fiction? On Halloween night, the moon cast a spectral white glow. Dressed as superheroes, monsters, and witches, we set out with our bags ready for treats. As we roamed the neighborhood, laughter filled the air, and the night had a beautifully eerie quality, imbued with the spirit of Halloween. That was until we reached the desolate end of our street, where the old, dilapidated house stood. An unusual glow emanated from behind the house, a sight I can still vividly recall today. Driven by adventure, or some might say foolhardiness, I decided to investigate alone while my friends waited anxiously. Sneaking through the rickety fence, the sight that greeted me still haunts my dreams. There, beneath the skeletal tree, loomed the figure of a clown. Bathed in the ghostly light, it was even more terrifying than the rumors had suggested. The grotesque grin, pale, ghostly face, and a flickering balloon dancing in the wind. It didn't move, didn't utter a sound, just stood there, watching, waiting. The terrifying image seared into my mind, sending adrenaline coursing through my veins. Racing back to my friends, we were pursued mercilessly by the clown, his horrifying laughter resonating throughout the darkness. It felt like he was closing in on us with each stride, his inhumanly large smile and eerie eyes locked on our figures. We sprinted through the streets, our hearts throbbing wildly, and our breaths taking the form of frantic gasps. The clown was constantly on our tail, clutching a crimson balloon with a terrifying message scribbled on it in what seemed to be blood. The persistent chase carried on, and upon reaching a junction, the inviting light of a police station was in our sight. Using the last of our energy, we barged through the doors of the station begging for assistance. The clown, mere feet away, continued to taunt us from behind the glass doors with his frighteningly eerie smile. The cops responded swiftly, darting out to face the sinister clown. But when they arrived, the clown had inexplicably vanished, leaving only the ominous crimson balloon tumbling eerily in the breeze. The area was searched, but the clown had evaporated. On a chilly Halloween night, the air carried the fragrance of fallen leaves, and the joyful voices of children filled the neighborhood. My residence was a charming, centuries-old house at the end of the street. It provided the perfect setting for my Halloween party, boasting creaky floors and weakly lit hallways. My fascination with the supernatural and eerie inspired me to decorate it with a ghostly enthusiasm, ensuring the spookiness was taken to the extreme. As dusk settled in, my friends and neighbors, dressed in costumes ranging from whimsical to macabre, began to arrive. The moon rose high in the night sky, adding to the enchanting and mysterious ambience. Around 9 p.m., the first signs of something unusual unfolded. The lights in the living room started flickering intermittently. Initially, I dismissed it as a minor electrical glitch, which was a common occurrence in that old house. However, as time passed, the flickering grew more pronounced and unsettling. My guests couldn't ignore this strange occurrence and grew increasingly uneasy. I tried to make light of the situation, attributing it to the spooky ambience of the night, but a growing unease gnawed at me. The real terror began when I heard a strange, muffled sound. It was like a distant, ghostly melody that floated through the house. Nervous glances were exchanged among my friends, yet no one could pinpoint the source. As the unease spread like wildfire among my guests, I decided to investigate the source of the eerie music. I excused myself and ventured into the corridor, lined with antique portraits of long-departed relatives. The eerie music continued, seemingly emanating from the very walls themselves. I pressed my ear against the peeling wallpaper and shuddered as I felt a cold breath on my cheek. The eerie melody was now clearer, yet I couldn't understand the tune. Abruptly, the lights in the corridor extinguished, plunging me into inky darkness. Reaching for my phone, I turned on the flashlight. As the light pierced the darkness, I found the corridor empty. Trembling, I rejoined my equally unnerved guests. Downplaying the bizarre occurrences, I suggested a spiritual gathering to contact the spirits of the house, thinking it might appease any restless entities. As we gathered for our spiritual gathering, we sat in a makeshift circle. I held a Ouija board and asked my friends to place their hands on the planchette. The room chilled, and a low hum filled the air. The planchette began to move, spelling out the words, "We want out." Panic ensued, and the group decided to try again, still in disbelief. The planchette began to move once more, spelling out, "Let us out." The group was left stunned, exchanging anxious glances and unsure of what to do. At that moment, my friend Robert stood up and declared, "We have to burn the board." The group concurred. We took the board and hurried outside. Closing the front door, we set the board ablaze, and as it burned, the front door inched open, leaving us in bewildered disbelief. To this day, I remain unsure of whether it was a malevolent spirit or one of my friends playing a prank. It all happened 13 years ago. Halloween night had arrived, and my friends and I were buzzing with excitement. We'd spent weeks planning our costumes, mapping out the best trick-or-treat route, and even daring each other to go to the creepiest houses in our neighborhood. This Halloween was going to be legendary. I was dressed as a creepy clown, my face painted ghostly white, and a sinister grin stretching from ear to ear. My friends, Sarah and Mike, were equally decked out in their ghoulish attire. Sarah was a wicked witch, and Mike had transformed into a menacing zombie. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, we set out on our adventure. The air was crisp and filled with the aroma of fallen leaves. The sound of crunching leaves beneath our feet only added to the spooky ambience. We couldn't have asked for a better Halloween night. Our first few stops were uneventful, with friendly neighbors giving us handfuls of candy and even commenting on our creative costumes. But as the evening wore on, we noticed an eerie, abandoned house at the end of a dark and winding street. Its dilapidated facade loomed ominously against the moonlit sky. "Hey, I dare you to go knock on that house, Sam," Mike said, his voice laced with an eerie thrill. I gulped, my bravado waning in the face of this ominous dare. "All right, fine, but you have to come with me," I replied, not wanting to be alone in front of that terrifying place. Sarah nodded, and the three of us marched toward the decrepit house. As we approached the creaking front gate, it felt as though the temperature had dropped several degrees. I shivered, and not just from the cold. The house was unsettling in a way I couldn't quite put into words. The moon cast an eerie glow over the house, making it look even more ominous. The front door stood before us, weathered and imposing. As I raised my hand to knock, a heavy silence enveloped us. I hesitated, the anticipation hanging in the air like a thick, suffocating fog. Finally, I summoned the courage to knock. The sound echoed through the house, and we waited in eerie silence. No one answered. Just as I was about to suggest leaving, the door slowly creaked open by itself, revealing an impenetrable darkness within. "I'm not going in there," Sarah whispered. "Come on, it's just a Halloween prank," Mike reassured us, but even his voice held a hint of uncertainty. "Let's check it out. If there's candy, we'll grab some and leave." Reluctantly, we stepped inside, our shoes making eerie squeaks against the old, dusty floor. The interior was even more unsettling than the outside. Cobwebs clung to the corners, and the wallpaper was peeling in tattered, ghastly patterns. The house felt like it had been frozen in time, holding its own dark secrets. As we moved deeper into the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. The whispers began, faint and haunting, like the echoes of forgotten memories. They seemed to emanate from the very walls, but the words were garbled and incomprehensible. Fear took hold of us, and we decided to make a hasty retreat. We turned to leave. The front door remained open. The relentless whispers grew louder and more insistent, making our skin crawl. We ran, guided only by the dim moonlight that filtered through the grimy windows. The oppressive darkness closed in on us, and the feeling of dread intensified. Finally, we burst through the front door, emerging into the moonlit night, gasping for breath. We were back outside, standing in the cold night air, away from the cursed house. Even now, as an adult, passing by that forsaken house on Halloween night, I can't help but wonder about what was making those whispers that still haunt my memories.